Hey, Jose.
What's up, buddy?
All right, so back after a nice little break.
Long
I think the
hiatus.
last show we did was just before the Olympia.
Yes, and I was wrong on just about everything.
Yeah, maybe
So
Bumstead. I don't know. Did you pick Bumstead? You might have got that one right.
I think I picked Brian.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I picked everyone wrong. I know nothing about bodybuilding, so people should just log off right now. I was absolutely wrong about. I apologize to Clarita because I had him in third. But he was awesome. Obviously, this is months later now. But yeah, I was wrong. I had Kamal winning. I had George coming in second or winning. But George was slightly off condition-wise compared to those top two guys. I was just fucking way off. I didn't have Rami even in the top five.
Yeah.
I had Rami maybe being top five.
We talked about that. Like the one thing I had said was the only variable here was Chad somehow getting things right and making a huge difference from the Arnold, because he looked okay at the Arnold, but nothing that was going to win the Olympia, right? He couldn't even win the Arnold there. But Chad had a story at that point where he said, I figured it out, like carving him up and like what goes on backstage. I figured out the errors that everyone else couldn't figure out. We're going to nail it next time. And of course, everybody's going to say that, but he brought it. It was a big difference at the Olympia compared to the Arnold.
Yeah, he was awesome.
So with that being said, though, like obviously we were both off in pretty much our picks for everything. Do you think the judges got it right? Like, do you agree with the decisions?
Yeah, I do. I mean, yeah, it was, Phil he looked awesome, but he was way off from his best. I think they did the right thing. I think had Hadi come in like he did the second night, he would have been second, a solid second. I think Brandon brought what you could argue it was his best ever. And, I think, again, if Hadi was the way he was this at the finals, then he would have beaten Brandon. But it was just, you hear this all the time, that you get judged against your best.
Yeah.
And if we didn't know who Phil Heath was and he came in like that, maybe you could have pushed him to beat Brandon. But because Phil looked so vastly different from what his best is, they judged him against that. And I think for the most part they did get it right. I still don't agree with Shanique coming in second. That was the biggest disappointment to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so I can't say, what they saw. This girl that won was crazy condition, crazy glutes. But I think Shanique's flow, overall physique, overall presentation, everything about her just screams champion. And I don't know, man.
So do you think I don't know if it was Aceto that had said, I heard somebody mention basically what you just said, that you're judged against your best, and Shanique was a little bit off. And this other girl was by far her all-time best. Do you think that could be the case for giving the other girl the win? I don't know her name off the top of my head, but
Sarah Villegas or something. That must have played a part. That maybe Shanique was a little, like 1% softer than her best. She looked fuller and rounder than she had the previous year, which I liked. I liked that look. I didn't see her being off. I just saw her, maybe she wasn't as dry as she had been previously. I don't know. I just think her shape and overall everything is just worthy of being a champion. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't say 100%. But what I did see from TV was her definitely in my eyes. I would pick her 7 days a week and twice on Sunday to win just about any show.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So going back to the men's open, kind of going down the list, is questions for each of these guys. So with Rami, how beatable or unbeatable do you think he's going to be going forward? Assuming, you know, obviously Chad made improvements. Some of the Chad did a few interviews after the Olympia, and one of the things that jumped out to me when he talked about his process of why Rami looked better at the Arnold, but way better in the Olympia. And it was bringing out the detail. And he was asked, how'd you bring out the detail? And he said, we immediately had him do deep tissue massage multiple days a week, like get in there, break up the scar tissue, fascia, and sort of implied that he was like, I don't want to say it, but let's just say some past coaches really screwed up his legs. And we had to break up, you know, what was there, sort of implying, you know, it was like a site injection thing. And that to get any detail out going forward, it was just hours and hours and hours of deep tissue massage, breaking that up, and working on his mobility, his flexibility, so that he could hit the poses better. Obviously, going to live with Dennis James, what was it, like 6 weeks out or something, and Dennis posing him for hours a day, you know, so he was the first in the pose, the last out. So with that being said, that to me makes sense of why he looks so much better, just those few things. How much better can he get next year, sort of with the Chad Dennis combo? You know, is Rami pretty tapped out? Can he improve drastically from there? And is he beatable next year?
So that's interesting, because I didn't see that interview that you're referring to. But can he be better? Yes. I still see some scar tissue. I still see what looks to be something on his quads. He doesn't need that. His quads are gigantic. So yeah, if they can break that up even more and bring out more detail in his legs and his quad from the front mainly, because from the side, he's just bananas.
Yep.
Nobody's even close. And from behind, he's very good. You know, the glutes, everything, lower back, he was awesome. Can he get better? Yes. I don't think he needs to lift crazy heavy to gain, you know, any more size. I think he just needs to be tight, hard, shredded, continue. I definitely think the working with Dennis James played a huge role because, as you said, he was the first one in the pose, the last one out. Which shows a lot of confidence and a lot of, you know, not only conditioning visually, but conditioning to pose. And that stuff matters.
What a difference too, as the show went on, where Rami seemed to get better, or if he didn't get better, he stayed the same and others got worse, with Phil being the example of just looking winded, and his stomach got worse and worse, you know, as it went on, which only made Rami look better and better, because he was just holding everything tight like a statue.
Yeah. Well, with Phil, you know, there were years where they'd hit one shot and put him back away. You know, he was that dominant. So he never really got pushed to the limit like that. And when he did, he lost both times, you know, once to Sean Roden and now to Rami and Brandon. So yeah, that definitely played a role. I think particularly when you have a stomach issue and you start getting gassed on stage, the stomach is going to show more and more and more. And, you know, listen, it happened to me when I was on stage. The first thing that went would be my breathing, my stomach. So I can feel for him. And that's definitely an issue. So that was something Phil never had to really think about as far as, you know, how much he's going to get pushed on stage with posing. Because I mean, the minute he hit a shot, normally it's game over. And
that's something, you know, probably the average fan doesn't think about. Obviously, you've had some wars on stage where they probably kept you up there and did round after round after round and put you back in line, brought you out. And, you know, I've only had a little bit of experience, but like we talked about at the USA's, I think for the heavyweight class I did, they made us do maybe 3 rounds, and I was exhausted by the end of that. For anybody that hasn't done a show and hasn't like done real posing, with a real posing coach, it's one of the hardest things. I see typically when somebody is learning posing for the first time, 5 minutes in, kind of a look of like, holy shit, this is no joke. This is hard. And by the end of the 3rd round of posing for the heavyweight class, the 2 guys that I was competing against that genetically were crazy, like just amazing shape, started fading a little bit. One guy very much in particular, sweat pouring down him, stomach going in and out. And so I was thankful for, the posing time that we had done running this stuff and the practice I had done leading up to it. And that's nowhere near the scale of like how much they were pushing these guys on the Olympia. I bring that up just because people that haven't had that experience are very quick to, point to Phil's stomach and say, oh,
Yeah.
it's like, this shit is hard when you're up there, especially at that size, right? I'm up on stage 204, 205, not 265. That's a whole other thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they don't understand. They think you just hit a shot. Boom. No, you're squeezing every muscle in your body at the same time and holding it for, 10 seconds and then doing it again and again and again. And it gets very difficult.
And oftentimes too, you're exhaling all the air in your body, essentially holding your breath.
Right.
For that 10-second period. And you got a split second to get air in, take a couple breaths and hit the next pose and blow out all the air and hold your breath.
All while trying to breathe through your chest and not your abdomen.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of people don't realize it. So, I mean, Phil looked awesome to me. That was after being away for, was it 2 years now? And, he was slightly off from his best conditioning. The glutes and hams weren't typical Phil, but I mean, he was still 3rd in the world. That was pretty awesome. I'd love to see him come back again and bring a little better, condition more to what he is used to. And I think I still think Phil can push for the title. People have written him off and said, he probably shouldn't come back. I still think he can. I still think he can put more practice into posing, into holding that stomach. Sure, there's going to be a few shots that he'll lose. I think Phil lost some size overall. His shoulders appeared smaller to me than normal, his back, his legs. I think with, another full year of training, that he could get back some of that size and be very formidable for Ramy. And let's face it, we've only seen Ramy peak once. There's no guarantee that he can do it again. I'm leaning towards yes, he can, because he's got the right formula right now with Chad. And if he comes back early again, or even earlier next time with Dennis, and does the same thing, there's no reason he can't repeat. He's getting up there. I mean, he's only, I would say he's 37. So, age shouldn't really be a factor, but I think he can definitely repeat. It's just a matter of, that he doesn't go crazy in the off season. I don't think Ramy needs to be 350 pounds in the off season. I just don't.
Right.
I don't think he needs to be 290 on stage. I think he needs to be peeled, shredded. His shape is really good. Just that conditioning wins. When they're all big, they got to be the most conditioned and present himself the way he did this year, and it'll be great to see.
So going to second place, what does Brandon do? What does he have to do if you're advising him? Can he come back and win it next year? Should he stick to doing, say, Arnold's, and just trying to take that show and competing some other shows? Or what would you do if you're Brandon?
No, you definitely come back, because second place at the Olympia is still over $150,000. Yeah, you come back for sure. And come back trying to make those improvements. with his hamstrings, his quads, his, slightly more condition. Keep making improvements. He's still young enough to continue improving, and he doesn't have any injuries that I know of. So yeah, he can definitely continue to get better. If he wants, he can do the Arnold. This year it's in September. I don't know how that's going to work out for those guys. Do you do the Arnold and then take a few weeks off and then try to peak for the Olympia again? This is a weird time we're in with bodybuilding. Me being the way that I used to compete, I would definitely do the Arnold and the Olympia, and maybe a show in between, just to keep doing it and keep honing your craft. I would, if I was Brandon, I'd go. I got 4 kids to raise. I'd go do every show I could, because let's face it, if it's not Rami, he can win just about every show.
Right.
And he could beat Rami too. I would definitely do those shows. I would advise all of them to do them. Why not?
Now, with Hadi, moving down the list to Hadi, what does Hadi need to do? Obviously, you may or may not have heard the story. Hani Rambod spoke about it of, he almost wasn't able to get here. This year, it was down to the wire. I think he got in a day or two before they had to weigh in. And so that he sort of explained that's why he looks so much better on Saturday rather than Friday. He had to lose like 15, 20 pounds of water from, it was something crazy, like a 20-hour flight to get over here. And so got over, had to lose the water, couldn't get enough of it off for Friday night. Hence why I think they had him in maybe 5th or something on Friday. And then 2nd on Saturday, night and day difference there. But what does he have to do to take this thing?
Again, very little. Just keep making those strides that he's doing. He doesn't have to do anything drastic. He needs to get here earlier. He needs to start the whole process of getting the visa and start now. Try to come as early as he can. If he can get here in September, do it. I'm sure Hani would let him come stay with him. Do whatever it takes to get here early, so none of that is an issue. From what Hani said, he was like 20 or 24 pounds over the weight when he arrived compared to what he was Saturday night.
Yeah.
So that's very difficult. It was only a few days prior to the show. So he needs to get here early and be at his best. And he's another one who could surprise everyone. If Rami's slightly off, I think Hadi has better shape than him, and the detail, way more detail in the quads, and he could be.
Can you imagine if he got here even a month before the show, right? Like of just settling in. What Hani Rambod had said too was when he traveled, I think it was from Dubai to New York City, and then had to go to New York to Florida for the Olympia. He could have his food for that long flight, but as soon as he got to New York, they wouldn't let him carry the food over.
Right.
So it was, they threw his food out. And then, from New York, obviously it's not that long of a flight, but got to Florida, had no food. People had to run and grab him stuff. He's holding 20, 24 pounds of water. They've got to use some crazy level of diuretics to just get that off. Right. And you're running into the danger zone there of, you don't want to go too far and flatten them out like a pancake,
Right.
just by taking too much. So it's amazing he looked as good as he did Saturday. And also they were talking about the stress of, he didn't know if he was even going to get a visa until days out. He was told no, and there were all these issues. The consulates were closed, and there was some issue where he finally got approved, and the printer at the embassy was broken, and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry. Like, you're going to have to come back another day." And he wouldn't have made the flight. He wouldn't have actually been to the athletes meeting and the weigh-ins and all that. So, like, the stress that you must be under, it's like, imagine if you just got here stress-free a month out and could just train and eat going into the show and didn't have all that water retention. You wonder what he would look like, because you've obviously seen him in different situations, but these last 2 Olympias certainly aren't ideal for a competitor. flying over last minute. And
Right.
I may or may not have a visa. I may or may not even be able to do this show. I can't imagine what it's like prepping for a show where there's a good chance you might not even be able to come over and do it. How do you go all in when it's at best 50-50?
Well, he's a different animal. And also in that Hani interview, he spoke about, imagine being hearing impaired, and he's used to reading lips, and everyone has masks on. So not only does he not speak English, he's used to speaking Farsi, but reading lips in Farsi. So he's got none of that. So he don't know anything that's going on. I mean, that is enough stress that I would have just said, I'd have mailed it in. I'm just gonna eat,
Right.
He probably did eat. He had a couple burgers, and they were able to get it off him. But yeah, Hadi's unbelievable. So
Have you seen the recent videos, his walking lunges and the squats, where was there like 8-9 plates aside they put up in the last couple of days?
Yeah, I don't think it was 405. It was 4 plates on each side. I don't think he was walking.
That was the walking lunges, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it was a shorter bar.
Yeah, but
it's not that much of a weight difference.
Well, no, I don't think it was I don't think they were 45-pound plates. Someone said on his post, I obviously don't read Persian, whatever it was, but someone said that it was 200 pounds.
Okay, which is still crazy.
Which is still crazy, you know. It may have been more, but I don't think it was 405 walking lunges. That's not safe.
There's the video he put up, I want to say it was yesterday, with him squatting. Have you seen that one?
Is that when they were taking the plates off?
The plates were being held on by like bands because it was like right to the max of the bar.
Yeah, I think he does squat 600 pounds for reps. Like, yeah, his legs look it.
Right.
He's pretty nuts. Would it be interesting, Nate? I know you love politics. Is he was able to get in twice during the Trump administration. Will he be even able to get a visa under the Biden administration?
Sure.
Are things going to be that different? That'll be interesting to see.
Sure.
Or
yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
it'll be easier.
Right.
Who knows? I don't know.
Right, because you had not only, obviously, you have the politics of Iran, and things got really heated between the U.S. and Iran during the Trump administration. Right, not better, it got worse. So where does that go? As well as this year, he had COVID to deal with, right? With certain countries being on almost like a no-fly list. You can't come in. So yeah, I actually am shocked. I didn't think he was going to get in this year. So at least they have history of when they make their case, is to say, look, he got in the last 2 years, nothing bad happened, right? Like he's placed, essentially in the top 5, top 4 the last 2 years. What was he? He was 3rd last year, right? It was Brandon, and then
Brandon, Bonac,
and then Hadi. Yep. So 3rd and 4th. So hopefully that makes the case, right? That first year, whenever this lands on somebody's desk and you're like, let this guy from Iran come over and compete, and he doesn't have a history of competing here, that's probably a little bit more strange. But when they can point to, look, he's done it the last 2 years, you hope that makes the argument of, nothing bad happened, just let him in again.
Yeah, hopefully. He's a bona fide superstar that needs to be here. So I hope he does get in.
So we'll move past the Olympia, because we can talk about this for an hour.
Hey, one more real quick. I wanted to mention that Chris Bumstead was absolutely bananas. I had Brian going in. Because if you looked at the comparisons from Bumstead last year to this year, they had posted it up. I mean, it's like a different person.
Yeah.
And, hats off to him, because the improvements he made reassures me that I made the right comment when I said I didn't see him winning last year. And this year, I 100% see him winning. He deserved the win. He was that much improved. But wow, did he make a change? So this kid's a stud. I can't wait to see what he looks like next year.
Right. Another year of assuming, obviously he trained appropriately to bring up weak areas, right? His back was just absolutely night and day. As well as he kept his autoimmune disease under control, which was, a huge thing. So if he can do that, what's he, 26?
Something like that.
Something crazy, right?
Yeah.
So nowhere near his prime. I don't know where he's at in terms of the weight cap. If I haven't heard anything mentioned or heard him asked how much
he wasn't near the limit,
right? Because he's so tall. But like a Breon has to kill himself, right, to make that weight limit. George had to when he was doing it. So it's hard to come back drastically better when you're having to lose so much weight. So if Chris isn't anywhere near it, like obviously Terrence Ruffin isn't anywhere near that weight limit. He has lots of ways to improve too. He was obviously a huge standout. I don't think many people had him pegged for second. People, talked about him in the top 5, but this was a huge step up for Terrence. Where now he's in that discussion when they go into next year, because Terrence improves drastically year after year as well. So,
and Terrence is younger than Chris, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere around there. At least he's very young. Yeah, I did some posing with him a few sessions just before my show, and yeah, he's very young.
Yeah, I think Chris is. I think he's 6'2", and the cutoff is 240, and I want to say he was like 227 on stage.
That's crazy.
So he's got plenty of room to improve. So I feel sorry for everyone else going against him. There's that one guy that can, I think, what the hell, Lord Brian Jones?
Oh guy? Yeah, crazy. Yep, that's the next type. Same height, same crazy structure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does this year.
Yeah, he was one that he won what was it, Tampa? I forget what show that
the Chicago Pro. The Chicago
okay,
Pro in Atlanta.
That's the one that Abner did, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't familiar with him until that show, but he's a guy that you look at and you go, how the hell is he making that weight cut?
Yeah.
He's massive, absolutely massive. His shape is crazy. Yeah. And this was a huge step up for him. When he was, what was he, like fourth or fifth?
Yeah, at the Olympia,
yeah. So, to come from out of nowhere, there's some level of having to pay your dues, I think, to move up. And I think a lot of people are now going to take notice of him. So if he can make some improvements, I mean, what would you say he needs to work on to be in that talk to fight Bumstead?
A little of everything, a little more size, a little more fullness, a little more condition. He just looks so raw, so new, but shockingly beautiful flow. Everything is there. He just needs a little refinement, maybe a little size on that frame.
The presentation really makes. I look at him and I feel like he's a new guy on the scene. He looks crazy, but he doesn't have the same presentation of a Bumstead that's coming up there with that smirk of like, I've already won the show.
Yeah.
So there's a difference just in how they're hitting the poses up there, that your eyes get drawn to a Bumstead. Even Terrence, his confidence has improved a lot, right, as he's getting known as such a poser. But Bumstead just came out this year, and you go like, oh, that's the winner right there. And he had that look, he had that confidence on his face as well. And with is it Brian Jones? That's his name?
Yeah.
You just look at him and I don't know much of his history, but he looks like a newbie with crazy potential.
Yeah. Well, that's what he is. So that confidence will come with success, and he's experiencing success now. So he's going to be better. I mean, the sky's the limit for him.
So what does Breon do? Can Breon look to George and say, all right, I beat George the last couple of years, the last few years. George moved to 212 and is making waves there. Can Breon do that, or are we just two different body types and he's not going to grow like George grew into 212?
No, George is a lot bigger than him. George was a heavyweight bodybuilder before he got into classic. George has a ridiculous way of cutting weight, and he's just a different frame, different body type altogether. Breon's just naturally smaller. He's very bubbly, but he's not. No, I don't think 212 would work out too well for Breon. I think he needs to. I saw an interview with Steve Weinberger recently with Vlad from Generation Iron, and he was very blunt. He said, "No, I would have loved to seen Breon 100%. It would have been close." He didn't, because the guy Vlad asked him, is this the direction of the division? Is this what you're looking for? And he said, no, we look for the best guy, and Breon was off. If Breon was, I would love to see 100% Breon. It would have been a lot closer. So I think he sticks to it and brings his best. Comes back better, and it'll be closer. I don't know that he obviously can't change his frame, change his overall look, but he can add a little bit of muscle in certain spots, maybe improve his presentation a little bit. I know he puts a lot of work into his presentation, but I think maybe his idea of what he's doing is not necessarily what they're looking for. It didn't always do him favors, some of the things he was doing on stage. So if he goes back to the drawing board and nails everything 100%, I think he can definitely be close. If not leapfrog Rough Diesel again. But it's very exciting. Those guys are awesome, and anything can happen. We'll see.
All right, getting to some of the questions people asked us. I posted on my Instagram the other week. We had a bunch of questions. So one obviously always gets asked of you. You've answered this a bunch, but I guess we can get the current update. What's the status of a Jose comeback now?
Fuck, I'm old, dude. I'm training very hard. I'm training as hard as I have in a long time, and things are good. You and I did legs last Saturday, and I was going full bore. We had a crazy workout, and with those types of workouts, my legs have come back. I want to say they're better than they were when I last competed, right now. So the only way I would come back is if I know I could be competitive, and not competitive with the second tier guys. I want to be with the best. If I can't, then it's a waste of time. Nobody wants to see an old broken down man up there. I want to make sure that I'm ready to rock with the best. So there's no guarantees right now. I'm gonna give it another month or two before I make up my mind. I said that I would decide by the end of March how I was looking and what my thoughts are. I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. This is all I've done for most of my life, more than half of my life now. And while I'm still on the cusp of being able to do it, I don't want to not do it and then look back in 2 years and say, damn it, I should have done it, So we'll see. That's the best answer I can give is I would absolutely love to. We'll see what happens in the next 8 weeks.
I guess the good news is, you had stated, or people know, or if they don't know, you had a hip replacement. You didn't train for almost a year, I think, probably, right? Like for the most part, consistently.
Not real training.
Yeah, you couldn't train for a good chunk of time. And then it was pump workouts, getting something in here and there. Now you're back to training. Your legs have improved drastically. Obviously, they were in rough shape as anyone would be after a hip replacement and not training legs forever. So they've come back. You're able to do pretty much anything at this point, right? Where you were severely limited your last 2 or 3 years of competing,
right,
to like leg extensions and hamstring curls, and now you can squat. You can do crazy combinations of pendulum squat into walking lunges into whatever, right? So that's all good news, and your legs are coming back and looking better month after month. Which would be the thing. Like, there's no concern, I think, about your upper body. Obviously you've got some aches and pains in the shoulders and stuff, as a lot of people do, but it seemed to be your concern was, will the legs come back? Because there's no point in you stepping on stage if they don't look better than 18.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's
you've
where I'm
done
at.
that much. So, yep.
And I think you know, everything's looking good right now. So that's the best I can say. I'm looking, things are up, on the up. Very positive with how my training is going, and I'm enjoying training again, which is huge because for the entire year of 2018, it was a nightmare trying to train. You know, I couldn't do bent rows, I couldn't do deadlifts, I couldn't do stiff leg deadlifts, I couldn't squat, I couldn't do really much of anything that required me getting into like a forward leaning position. So now that I can do that, I my confidence is back. It's just a matter of overall size too. You know, I was used to being 240, and the heaviest I've been in almost a year now, I'm back up to 218. You know, I was a fat 245 a year ago, and I lost all that sludge, and now I was down as low as 204, and now a month back into serious training, I'm back up to 218. So,
And lean, very lean at that weight.
yeah, I'm in very good shape right now, which is good. So I don't have to lose a ton of weight to get in shape. Yeah, it's an exciting idea. You know, I'd love to do it, and we'll see what happens.
All right, going down the list of questions, talking about doing a show. What's the hardest part of a prep?
The hardest part. Oh man, my life always seemed better when I was prepping. You know, there's less capabilities of me getting into trouble. You know, I'm always very orderly when I'm prepping. You know, there's my food's cooked, my laundry's done, my house is clean. The hardest is maybe managing getting in everything, like getting in your cardio, you know, double cardio, getting in all those meals you got to eat, and work, and getting work done, and then normal life stuff. So the organizational part of it, you know, really getting everything down pat perfectly, that's the hardest part. I mean, I enjoy the suffering. I enjoy, you know, seeing myself getting tighter and harder, and you know, the work, the exercise part of it's the fun part. And let's face it, like, I'm eating 6 times a day, so I'm not starving. I don't get that. People are like, oh, I'm so hungry. How are you hungry? You've eaten 6 meals today. You know, they're low calorie. You know, you're obviously on a lower calorie diet, but yeah, the hardest part is just the mental organization of everyday life, along with what you got to do as a bodybuilder.
That's like, in my experience, I did some shows early on with you where I was training clients all day, but I sort of had the mindset of a trainer of, I'll take people whenever they want to train, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. You tell me what time it's there, right? And then my training and my meals all had to fit around that. So every day it was like, all right, I've got clients 6, 7, 8. I got a break for an hour, and then a client, and then a break for an hour, and then a client, and then a break for an hour, and then 2 clients, you know, craziness. And so trying to, just like what you said, trying to fit in 2 cardio sessions and the meals in some sort of consistent basis, and then get to the gym with enough time to do a real workout. Not like, all right, I got to get in and out in 40 minutes, but to say, okay, let me get in, let me walk for 5 or 10 minutes, get my head in the right place, do the few warm up, you know, to kind of take my time to get a quality workout in, have a little bit of time to eat a meal and come down from that before going right into a client. It was a mess. So when I think it was around the time of doing the Cutler show last year, and then the shows after that, I started saying, okay, this is a priority for me. I'm so competitive that I don't want to lose because I couldn't do the things I needed to do because of work. So work's going to have to be blocks of time. Like, these are the hours I can train. These are the hours I'll train clients. These are the hours I'm going to do cardio or lift, and then I'll train clients again. Or I'll have 3 clients and then a mandatory break for a meal. And like, clients will just have to deal with it. And I was kind of nervous doing that, But as soon as I said that, they were like, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
instead of coming at 3, I'll come at 4, and I got my meals in, I got my cardio in, and man, it was so much easier having that structured day, and doing cardio at a consistent time, eating at a consistent time, having 3 clients and then a break rather than 5 clients back to back.
Right.
So it's kind of problem solving. Obviously, we have weird schedules. There's people that might be construction workers and they've got their own challenges. But I think it's sitting back and saying, one, how do I make this a priority? How do I get my meals in? And you really have to adjust your life. Like, forget about hanging out with friends, forget about, all that other stuff. It's just, I have to work, I need to earn an income. And how am I going to fit in my meals, my training, and my cardio with that?
Right. Well, we're both kind of lucky because we make our own schedules, and if need be, we can take that time when we need it. And most of our clients are understanding and really excited for you for what you're doing, so they're always willing to help in any way they can. So we're lucky in that sense, but you got to pay the bills.
Yeah,
you got to fit in as many appointments as you can. So that is, to me, the hardest part is just organizing, getting everything done, and still making a living.
So the only other thing I'll add, and it's been less and less as I've done more shows, it was more drastic early on, was that feeling at like 3 weeks out where you hit a wall and you go like, oh shit, like my carbs are low, my cardio is high. Walking down the street to run some errands is a labored task, right? And so the hardest part for me was going into the gym on those days where you just feel like total crap and you have no energy, and working out isn't fun. And it's like this process that, like, this used to be my outlet and this was the best part of my day. And having that switch where you're like, I don't enjoy this right now, but I have to do it. And it made it a lot more fun if I was training with you, or you were standing over me, training me, pushing me through a session. But it's that session that I'm on my own and I got to go to the gym. Yeah. And I've got 80 carbs for the day, 40 at breakfast, 40 at pre-workout, and that's it. Yeah. And I've got to do a leg workout or a back workout, and so it's that weird feeling of, man, this is usually something I love to do. This was the best part of my day, and I don't want to be here right now. Yeah. That's a weird feeling when you just have no fuel, you have no energy, Yeah. And so that's hard for me. That tends to happen like 3 weeks out where I hit a wall. And now that I expect it and I go like, okay, like, this is the first time it happened to me, you feel like something's wrong, like I don't feel normal. I don't feel right. And there's a freak out where you want to go to your coach and say, whoa. Like, I feel like crap today. Do we need more food? Do I need a cheat meal? Do I need a refeed? Yeah. And, but then you get used to it and you go like, yeah, this is how I should feel being this lean. Right. Like, if I'm not feeling this way, something's probably wrong. I'm not lean enough. Yeah.
Well, it always feels better when you take your shirt off and you have a tank top on and you're like, that's why I feel like this.
Right.
You're peeled out of your mind, and everyone in the gym is looking at you like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
That makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel a little run down, but you look a lot better than you feel.
All right. So go to the next question. There's 2 questions off this. So a guy was asking, he's 40. First time he competes, should he do Masters division or should he do Open?
Do both. It only costs you $900. I would do both. You qualify for both. If it's someone nasty and you got a real coach that knows what he's talking about, and he can look at you and say, dude, you're going to smoke this show, then just do the Open.
Yeah.
If you're someone that needs the stage time, needs the stage experience, it would probably benefit from doing both divisions. So you get a little more time up there. You get to compare yourself to different physiques and see where you stand. If you have no idea, then I would do both, Yep. But if you're really nasty, then I would just do the Open.
So off of that, I did Masters USA's last year. I'm 39. I'll be 40. Assuming I do Universe this year, Masters Nationals, I'll be 40, so I can do the 40 and up Pro Qualifier. So when I was at Masters USA's, I was sitting next to Justin Randall watching the regular USAs. And Justin was like, hey, no offense, but I kind of think the Masters 35 Pro Qualifier is kind of stupid. He's like, you're so young. Like, he's like, I get it if you're 40, if you're 50, if you're 60. You're not hanging with the younger kids. He's like, at 35, 36, 37, 38, you are. They should just do away with it. And you know, obviously I'm a guy that's competing in it, but I don't know that I disagree with him. Right. It's the money, right? Like if you're putting on these shows, why not? Like I can see Justin's point of view. You know, you can have somebody 36 be crazy and hanging with everybody in the open and get that pro card much easier.
Hanging, you should be at your all-time peak at 35.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think 35 is not Masters. You know, I agree with them 100%.
Yeah.
It you know, it should be 40 and over.
Yeah.
35-year-old guys should be at the peak of their bodybuilding existence, you know. But you know, they do it. They make a lot of money off it. And you know, I guess it's good. I think it's more for guys like you that didn't compete until you were 36. You know, how old were you when you made your first show comeback there?
37.
37, exactly. Yeah. So it gave you an outlet to kind of compete on even playing field. You didn't want to go right in at your first show and go against the biggest, baddest guy.
Well, I did both. I did Masters and I did Open.
Right.
And
you did well.
Yeah. So, and I think you're right. It's, you know, you're only going to get a certain number of people showing up to these shows, right? Like it's such a niche thing. So say a Cutler show gets 200 unique people, 200 competitors. They're limited to so much money, but if they can start doing crossovers and the men's physique guy is trying his luck in classic physique, and he's, you know, they're doing novice and they're doing open because it's their first show, or someone's doing open and masters or bodybuilding and classic. I mean, the year that I did Cutler a couple of years ago, you had the local Japanese kid, Japa from Pro Lifters. I think legit do 7 divisions. You judged it.
Yeah.
Like legit 7 divisions, right? Like he did,
and he won them all, right?
Yeah, and he cleaned house, right? So, you know, that was very lucrative for Jay Cutler and Weinberger that day. You know, you get a bunch of guys doing 2, 3, 4, 5 divisions. You're paying $1,000, you know, to do that show. So I think that's definitely a reason. And man, if these promoters aren't making money, they're not doing shows. So I have no problem with them making money.
Of course. What's the next question?
Next one is, okay, so taking clients from other coaches. I know you've had to do this. Say somebody comes to you and they're working with so-and-so, you know, won't throw out any names, right? But they're working with a coach, didn't work out for them. You know, you and I trained legs with somebody who fits that scenario last weekend. Yeah. And so what are some of the things you see common that you have to change with these people? Nutrition, training, supplements. What are some of the main things when you take someone on that are commonalities that you say, like, okay, like I'm going to have to change this right off the bat?
Yeah, well, it varies from person to person. For example, that guy we trained with, he was a skeleton when I got him. You know, I'm like, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm doing 3 hours of cardio. And I'm like, for what? You're not even doing a show. It was nuts. And so obviously I had to cut all that out. And he was 216 when we started, and he's 282 now. And he's crazy. 6'2". Yeah. And that's not, people are like, oh, you got him on insulin and everything else. No, the guy was starving to death. He looked like a concentration camp victim. And now he's blown up. You know, he's not going to be 280 on stage, but you know, when he finally does compete, for him to be 235 on stage is not a stretch, you know.
Whereas he would have been easily below 200 before.
Yeah. It was crazy.
I mean, from knowing him, you know, this is a guy that I met at the gym a long time ago. He was working with a coach online, and had some doubts about just the process in general. But the main thing, I don't know all the things you changed. I'm assuming you're just feeding him a lot more, right? But the biggest thing, seeing him back then as just a guy in the gym who was working with a coach towards an eventual goal of doing a show while I was prepping for a show. So he would always come up and talk to me. Where are you at? Asking about the process. And I was constantly like, dude, go work with Jose. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but it doesn't make sense to me. Go work with Jose. But the biggest thing is seeing him train back then, which
I was just going to say that.
It's everything. It's absolutely everything. I don't know if he was given a routine. I don't know if the coach said anything about training. He might have even given him, here's the workout routine, do it, right? Which is fine. But he would not have known to train how you have him train right now.
Right.
Because, I never would have known to train like that until you go through it and you go like, holy shit, this is what I have to do.
Well, I was just going to say that I have my best results with people that I get to train with. Obviously, you blew up. This guy blew up, and because a lot of times, like you said, they don't know what it really takes to get there. Now, there's obviously going to be other factors like diet, nutrition, supplementation that all needs to be adjusted. But the main thing is the amount of effort in the proper way to train for the results you want. So, he's grown and now he's strong as hell, that plays a huge factor. I wish that I was able to train with everyone that I'm, that I work with, but, depending on I've had women come to me that are on a ton of gear. I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you don't need all that. And, that's something that would need to be changed, or someone that's eating a 900 calorie diet, or someone that's eating tons and tons of shit. And they think that, for example, we know someone that's prepping for a show, and it's like every other day we see him eating burgers and putting all this thing, the diet, the food that he posts on his Instagram. I can understand why. I can tell you right now, he's not going to be peeled the day of the show.
Yeah.
He just won't. And there's a lot of people like that. They think that they can kind of diet. Well, then you'll kind of get in shape.
That's a weird, I don't know. Maybe you can speak to this if this was around pre-Instagram, but it seems like it's a big thing of, like The Rock. Every Sunday, The Rock is like, here's my Sunday cheat meal, right? And it's stacks of pancakes or a plate of cookies or just craziness, right? Like
The Rock's not getting on stage.
Right.
He's in great shape. You can get in great shape, but
yeah,
you try to get in contest shape.
But there's that trend now with competitors. The person you're talking about, that coach, tends to have hand out cheat meals like they're, I don't even know, Macy's coupons. Just here's a cheat meal. And so, but it seems to be a trend now of, it's almost like the cheat meal, bragging about the cheat meal on social media is like bragging about, I'm training so hard and I'm making so much progress that my coach needs to slow it down because I'm just burning so many calories. I'm getting shredded too fast. So I earn that cheat meal because I'm training like a beast. That seems to be the context of it when you see people posting about it.
He's a marketing genius because, right. I mean, let's face it, if there's 500 people in a show, there's only 12 of them in shape.
Yeah.
Real shape at a local show. And he's got a lot of local competitors. They're in better shape than they were a while ago when they were fat. But they're not going to win a contest,
And there's those rare examples of, you have a female bikini pro that you've worked with, you helped turn pro, right? Who had a crazy metabolism that if you didn't feed her burgers or sushi refeeds, she was going to waste away, right? And those are like 1 in a million. But people will see someone post that and think that's the program they need to do when that's like so specific to just her. I've never seen that of anyone I've worked with. you know, or other competitors, of like her metabolism was so crazy that you had to feed her burgers and fries 3 times a week just to keep her weight up.
Yeah. I get that all the time. When do I get a muffin? I'm like, oh, no. You're not getting a muffin. You got a muffin top. No muffin.
I think that's all of the questions here. Anything else you want to talk about?
We got one more. So there was someone that lit me up about Michael Hearn. There was on Michael Hearn's birthday, one of the motivational videos put out a video from Michael Hearn, and they used one of my rants from a couple of years ago as like the voiceover. And I don't know the kid's name from Plates and Dates, that kid.
Yeah.
He went off on me, said I was a douchebag and all this stuff, that he met me at one time and I was a dickhead. And I'm like, yeah, I never met you. And if I did meet him and he was as pompous ass that he is, then he deserves me to be a dickhead to him. This guy puts up videos about the Rock cycle, what John Cena's saying. How do you know what the Rock is doing? I don't know what the Rock is doing. Nobody knows what the Rock is doing, and you certainly don't know what Michael Hearn is doing. Anyone can say, yeah, I think he is, but when you ask me, and I look at him, and he just posted a video the other day. He's 6'3", 239 pounds. If you need a steroids to be 239 at 6'3", then you don't got it. That's not like otherworldly. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
So Michael Hearn, that was that pissed me off, because I'm like, I don't know what Mike does. I don't know what he does or doesn't do. But surely after 30 years of this, someone would have been like, yeah, I sold Mike this. I used to be Mike's Connect, or, my brother trained with him. I have insight that you don't have, or that nobody has. My brother trained with him every day for 10 years. I've trained with him a dozen times. I know what he looks like, what he does. I don't know what he does at home, but he doesn't look like Jay Cutler. He doesn't look like Gunther. He looks like more of a NFL football player, that's in really good shape. He's definitely possible to look like Mike. You might not be as pretty as him, but it's not like these people that are so convinced, oh, he definitely does it. I don't know. I don't think that Mike is so unattainable that it screams drugs. You know what I mean? At 6'3", under 240, that's not that crazy, Sure, could he have done something sometime? I don't know. Of course he could, but I think someone would have known by now. He's certainly the greatest at hiding it that's ever lived.
Right. Because everybody, Mike's pissed off enough people that somebody could come forward and put something out there, like you said.
Right.
I sold Mike something one time in the bathroom of a gym.
And I've had in-depth conversations with my brother, like, you don't think he does? He's got nothing that I can see. I don't, he doesn't talk about it. Maybe one time he would have said something, I'm trying some Anadrol for the first time or something. Who knows? Never in over 10 years that they trained together did he ever mention or did he thought anything. He was just a freak. He's one in a million that's that way. So that was something I wanted to address. I don't even know this guy from Plates and Dates. He's got a huge channel, he's great at what he's doing as far as getting subscribers and doing a good job there. But like he said something that when I did these raw videos, he didn't like me because I did raw videos and I wasn't very raw. So first of all, I'm not a doctor. I can't give you the chemical breakdown of every drug, and nor do I want to. And it's not my job to condone it to people. Like, I don't want to, the first thing we do is talk about drugs and mislead people into thinking, what did we just say earlier? The greatest attribute that I was able to help you with in the other guy was the training. That is the number one focus of what I do. Are there drugs involved in sports? In all sports, yes. But if you come at it where the drugs are the most important thing, then you've already lost. You're not getting it. And I think that was the thing that I've always tried to get across, is that I don't want to sit and break down drugs every day and talk about it, because not only do I not know everything about them, so I wouldn't pretend to, and I'm not a doctor, but it's sending the wrong message. I don't want to send the wrong message to people, and especially to younger kids that might be watching.
Yeah, that's the danger. I don't know where it started, if it was sort of a Rich Piana thing. Obviously, Rich was one of the first to really talk about it, but he also talked about it in the context of, you have to eat perfect, you have to train hard, right? That was still like, people never really saw that of Rich on the surface. Like the titles of the videos got your attention, right? Like my new super stack. But then if you actually watch Rich's videos, there was a lot more of like, oh yeah, this makes a lot more sense. You got to eat your 6 or 7 meals a day. You got to go to you got to put in the work. You got to train hard, right? Yeah. Rich happened to be on all these other compounds, but one of my gripes, and one of the reasons I always wanted to do this thing with you, is the natty or not videos, here's the cycle so and so is on. Nobody knows anything. Like those guys, period, don't know anything about this stuff. But people want to know, so they're filling that void of, the guy looks like he's in his grandma's basement with the wood paneling on the back, right? He's never done a show, but he's doing, like you said, he's doing a good job of clickbait, of saying this is what The Rock was on, this is what Arnold took back in the day, with no real references. He's just throwing out drugs. He's blindly throwing darts and seeing what sticks. Like there's nobody that's going to fact check him, nor does he care. But the danger in that, and I've had to deal with this with online clients I've taken on, is some kid sees that and says, this is what Callum's cycle is. This is The Rock cycle. And they say, I guess that's what I need, right? I guess I need to be on these drugs. That's the cycle, right? And there's no talk of training. There's no talk of diet. And so I get those kids signing up with me for online coaching who they're 19, 20, 21, 160 pounds, little bit of ab muscle, a little bit of muscle around. And they're like, all right, so here's the cycle I have planned. I'm going to be on Tren. I'm going to be on Anadrol. I'm going to be on a gram of test. I'm going to, and they start listing this stuff, and they've never done anything in their life. And it's the connect the dots. They think in order to look like Callum, The Rock, Arnold, whoever, that this is the one thing I'm missing. That's it. I'm already training hard. I'm eating well, right? And so I just have to do this and I'll look like these guys. And obviously you and I know that's not it. It's you think you're training hard, you're not. There's levels to this, and you've got to train. One thing I like from Greg Doucette is train harder than last time, right? Simply put, like you have to be able to do something this week that you couldn't do 2 weeks ago. You got to train harder. You got to push the food. You got, the drugs have nothing to do with that stuff of getting, and to be honest, there's a genetic component. As you obviously you have to eat, you got to train hard, but Mike O'Hearn looks like Mike O'Hearn because he has insane genetics, right? Natty or not, he has incredible genetics, right? And a lot of these elite that we're looking at, a Callum, a Jay Cutler, or whoever, have incredible genetics. You look at pictures of them as teenagers, and they looked way better than anybody else at that age.
Mike weighed like over 260 in high school.
Yeah.
As a lineman,
Yep.
Come on. The guy's elite. You brought up Greg Doucette, and he's another one that's like a Guy Sistanino. They both have like genetics, not for bodybuilding, but they both train like animals. Greg's one of the strongest pound for pound ever.
Yep.
I mean, to this day, I think he deadlifts 600 pounds for reps, and he's not even 200 pounds. You know, it's crazy. And, you know, he was able to build an unbelievable physique from hard training. Doesn't matter how many drugs he took. He wasn't going to get there without the training. And same thing with Guy. You know, they're both similar frames. You know, they're short and slender, but we're able to build a pro caliber physique.
Yep.
So I think, Nate, you had a great idea last time. You wanted to every week steal a question from Fuad's podcast. And this week it's about Nick Walker's butthole obsession. And a fan wanted to ask you how many dates it takes before you go for the butthole.
So I will say, I'm not going to answer that, but I will say, I messaged Nick last night. I supported him. I bought 2 of his Ass Man t-shirts.
There you go.
Have you seen this post about that?
Oh yeah, I love it.
So I bought one for me and then one for Peter at ANC because I figured he's a good recipient.
Oh, he's an ass man.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll love you for that. That's great.
And I won't tell you what it is, but I picked up a secret special t-shirt for you, not an Ass Man t-shirt, but something even better.
Oh,
so we'll reveal that. We'll reveal that on a future one. What's that?
All right, good. Is it another one from P-Town?
No, this one's even better.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. Those of you that don't know, Nate last summer went to the beach with his girl and went to Provincetown, which is a big gay community, and brought me back a bear shirt, and it's a great shirt, and it's a bear is a gay reference, so obviously I look like a gay bear to Nate, but
this one tops that. It'll whenever it comes in, we'll I'll give it to you at a workout or something, and we'll film it.
All right, great. I'm gonna reach out to Nick and get me an Ass Man shirt. That's great. All right, we'll have to save the other questions for the next time. I'm glad we got to connect. You've been hard to get in touch with lately, as have I. It's not just your fault. We're busy men here. Anything else you want to report on? No.
We'll get back to this. We'll see if we can get some guests back on and do more Q&As. So I guess if anybody's made it this far in this podcast, leave us some questions below and we'll answer them on the next video.
All right, great.
And let us know too, any guests you want, because there's probably some people that we can get that we haven't thought of yet. So if anyone has anyone they want us to interview, leave it in the comments.
All right,
Jose.
Good seeing you, Nate.
Till the next time.
All right, buddy.
Bye.